the computer.
On the computer, okay.
All right, we are recording. This is Team Inspire Action, Team Dynamite, Team Rock Fit, Team Empower, all coming on together tonight for a call, and we are going to really focus in on moving beyond busy, because we all are busy, and this business will either not fit in if you don't make it, or we can make it fit in with some focused, determined daily work. So Tony and I have been working through a book called The 12-Week Year. Tony is in his second kind of phase with it. I am a newbie trying to get caught up and get going with him as well. And it's been a great system. So he's going to share with us more of his perspective, his takeaways from it that you guys can hopefully benefit from and really apply into your business, but also into your life. And we were talking about this today, that this book and the lessons you can learn through paying attention to these things and making some slight changes in your life can really make a huge difference for your business, but also with your family and with your life as well. So Tony's going to jump in. We're going to hear from him. And then at the end, hopefully we'll have time for questions before we let you guys go on with your night. So thank you so much for being on. We will get the recording up as soon as we can. And Tony, take it away. I'm going to even mute myself.
All right. Thanks, Colleen. Yeah. And this is something to keep this in perspective. Whatever you're doing as a coach right now, whether you just want to blow this thing out of the water, or you just want to, implement this in a sense where you just want to have an extra $500 or $1,000 coming in, but you still want it to be a very focused business and a very focused system. Because the first thing I want to do is basically get this out of the way. And I think the first thing you have to acknowledge as a coach, as a human being, I guess, as a person, is that there's no getting around busy. We can never get around busy. So if you have to acknowledge that. And if, some people work pretty well in chaos, I guess. We talked about that today too. But you can never get around busy. Every single time of the year, I don't care if it's winter, there's going to be stuff going on with the kids going back to school. And this goes for your clients as well. How many excuses do you get from clients saying, well, I have to pay off Christmas bills. It's too cold. I got kids. Kids are a great excuse. Springtime comes around. Then all of a sudden it's like, well, we're getting ready for vacations. The kids have homework. They're finishing up school. So I can't get involved just yet. In the summertime, the kids are home. It's crazy busy. If I ever hear that term again, crazy busy, that means a 0% chance this person is going to follow through on anything. Because I've heard that term so many times since being a coach. But the kids are home, getting ready for summer vacation. We're getting ready for fall. Then fall comes around. Kids are going back to school. I mean, it's a great excuse. It's a great build-in. Then, of course, you got wintertime. And, of course, you got the holidays rolling in. So what we're saying is it doesn't matter. I mean, even with how many times have maybe you said, I know I've said it before, it's like, well, I'm going to hop on board as soon as the holidays are over. Oh, but then there's Valentine's Day. And then there's St. Patrick's Day, and then there's office parties, and there's birthday parties, and there's a confirmation party, then there's graduation party. They got all this other stuff going on. So what we're saying is there's always going to be something coming up. There's always going to be some sort of excuse for busyness. So wrap your head around that, first of all, that you have to do something because it's going to happen. Life is going to get in the way just the way it is. So that's number one. Number two is that derailment, or if you want to call it drifting away from your habits, healthy habits, the habits that are getting you somewhere, either with your nutrition, your fitness, your business, your career, whatever the case is, those things are going to happen. In fact, I had 2 phone calls this past week, back-to-back days, from 2 clients that have they've done great, but then they just drifted away. Life got in the way. Relationship broke up. Didn't get the job they wanted. So they had these things that were happening, and they just drifted away from their fitness and their nutrition. So they weren't really taking care of themselves. And we had to really kind of go back to, let's just go back to implementing one healthy nutrition habit each day. And let's stick with that. Let's have one fitness habit that we want to stick with each day, and one other holistic personal habit that we could stick with each day. That's all we're going to worry about. And so we're going to come back to that with the business part of it, because I think if we just keep things simple and basic with the business, when you're derailing, when you're maybe drifting off and not doing the things you need to be doing, maybe, it's busy and things kind of get in the way. So we're going to kind of come back to those things a little bit. A couple of things with Team Beachbody, the business and coaching in general, tendencies of us and maybe you, when life gets busy or derails or drifts, first couple things that typically go, your business suffers. All right. And there's a couple reasons for that. One big reason, and I don't know if you nod your head, if you feel as though your vision on what you want this business to bring you, if it is at least crystal clear, written up, long-term, intermediate term, and short-term, is that crystal clear? And if it's not, then that's what happens when you get busy. You're going to drift away because you're not attaching that vision. One thing the 12-week year does, it really kind of dives into the vision part of it. In fact, us as coaches who are involved in it, we're sharing our vision. We're sharing our vision. And I hope Brandy's on the call too tonight, because she really has connected with that vision. And it's something that if you don't have it, listen, you're going to drift. You're just going to keep starting over again. And it's hard to build momentum if you have to keep starting over every single time something happens, because stuff's going to happen. Let's face it, it's going to happen. And also too, if you're looking for immediate gratification, I mean, I'll go back to what Simon Sinek said a couple of summits ago when he was up on stage, and he said, listen, I mean, you guys, you're busting your butt. You're doing these hard, intense workouts, hammer and chisel, 21-day fix extreme, body beast, whatever the thing is. And you look in the mirror and you don't see those immediate changes, but as a fitness, guru, right? You keep going, you do it anyway. You're not seeing those changes. But for some reason in our business, if we don't see immediate results, we tend to drift and try all these different things. Well, let me try this system or that system or this book or that book. So regardless, it's instant gratification if it's not happening. And as you know, and I know, and if you don't know, if you're a new coach, typically what you're doing now in planting seeds and invites, you're not going to see the fruit of that labor until 3 months down the road or 6 months down the road anyway. Right. So what you're doing now, and I'll use that as an example for my first 12-week year, because I'm seeing a lot of that stuff happen 3 months later or so. So, and what happens typically with that, if you're doing it, and you're drifting along, what happens is you tend to be more of a hobby coach. You tend to just, okay, I'm posting stuff randomly out there with a Shakeology post or just a random fitness post. Maybe you have a really, really good post, but then you don't follow through the next day with something that is adding value to people. And it's one thing we want to do with our posts, to be consistent with that. And sometimes if you're drifting away or, getting a little busy, sometimes you may skip 3-4 days without even putting any content up on Facebook or social media, Instagram, things like that. So I'll kind of give you a little bit of my history with this a little bit, just so you have an idea. Because we always say that really, really good things will happen, but there's a lot of work that has to go up front with it. Last fall, I was going through some crazy stuff. I mean, personally, things were not quite clicking right. I was looking for another job. I didn't realize how mentally exhausted I was after the interview process with a couple of jobs, and especially with the University of Toledo. It was I was drained. And then starting the new job was completely overwhelming. Now, luckily, I have a good supervisor and a good training system and all those things. And a lot of those things I brought to my business. But the point of the matter is, that was a lot of stuff that was kind of going on. And I realized that because of this job, compared to my last job, there's a lot more involved with this job. There's going to be a lot more requirements of me, responsibilities of me. And my hours are going to change a little bit. Because of that, I realized that if I keep going the way I'm going without a system in place, this is one of those things that it's just going to get busy again. And we're not going to be working the business. So those things are not going to change. So I need to change. So what I did at that particular point, I just realized Andrea Sims mentioned 12-week year. So I read the book and I said to myself, well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a couple steps back. I'm not going to worry about Success Club. Hate to say that. I'm not going to worry about Success Club for a couple months, because I need to put something in place. I need to lay a foundation down. So I took a good month to do that. And once I did for the beginning of January with the 12-month year, I have a vision. The people on board with this seem to have a clear vision of what they're doing. I have actual business hours. I know exactly what I'm doing in the time frame that I have to work with. So, and of course, I've kind of just dissected my social media to say, okay, what can I hang my hat on? What gets the most feedback? What am I about? What do I like posting about? What do people like to hear about? Because it's all about adding value to people, right? I don't want to just throw up a bunch of posts, 6 posts in a day, and 3 of them are shares, and just because I think it's funny or something. I wanted to make sure it adds value to people. make sure it's going to get some feedback. Fitness posts, nutrition posts, inspirational posts. Sometimes being just a stupid moron like myself. I just like to be. I'm funny. Okay, I'm a funny dude. I just like to make fun of myself a lot, and whatever the case is, let's put it out there. So we'll do that, and in that time frame, because of the 12-week year and having a system in place, and getting very specific with your goals, and really to shape your, and then the tactics and are going to inviting people, talking to new people, and that's what it boiled down to. So all of that stuff that was going on in January and February and March, and you're tracking your numbers and you're kind of connecting with your mastermind group, and the numbers don't lie, and you really see what's working for you and what's not working for you. So fast forward now till the second part of the year now, we're talking April and May. We have some coaches that have been signed up. Now, of course, there's no guarantee they're going to be awesome rock star coaches. We have to see where they're at, and I have to be a good leader in that regard there too. But there's more personal time, there's more family time. There's things are better all around as far as professionally. Things have calmed down and personally and things like that. So and business wise as well. So when we're looking at what you can do now, are a couple things. And again, it always comes back to the vital behaviors. So I don't want to overcomplicate this, because I want to go back to what I talked about, the 2 client phone calls I had just this past week about, hey, I've derailed. I got things kind of going on. I'm busy. So let's go back to your business part. The very first thing you can do is sit there and say, okay, let me come up with something that I could do on social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever your thing is, but maybe it's both, hopefully. But the thing is okay, how many times am I going to post a day? What topics should I be talking about? And I honestly have this. I have a business post Sunday night. I have a fitness post on Monday. I have a nutrition post or a health coach tip on Tuesday and Thursday. I mean, so I'm very purpose driven as far as I need to make sure I talk about these topics, because they get feedback and they get credibility. And because I know the audience that I'm looking for as well too, when I'm connecting with people. So if anything right now, just be consistent with your social media and not overthink things too much. Maybe you spend a day to prepare some of those posts, some of those key posts. And so you push those out, and so you have them prepared for the week, whatever the case is. But also too, I would say the other thing is connect with new people. I know don't get confused with some of the other coaches. Sometimes you hear, wow, you got to connect with 15 people a day or whatever. That may be your thing. Colleen's doing this full time. I mean, I think she's inviting like 15 people a day or something crazy. I don't know. It's a lot. I am working full time, 2 kids, family, all that other stuff too. So I don't have, could I do that? I probably could, but I know what I'm capable of. And right now it is right now to try to message 3 people per day. That's what I can handle, because when those private messages start loading up, it takes a while to kind of get back to them and actually carry on a conversation. And I just had a conversation with a personal trainer in Jackson, Michigan last Friday, and it was great. We talked for a half hour, but guess what? Beachbody never came up. We had a great conversation. It's building relationships, because that right there may lead into something down the road. We're on Instagram together. We're connected on Facebook. It led into a phone call. She was interested we just had an interesting conversation. So we talked about it. So what we're saying is a couple things: being consistent on social media, also connecting with new people. New people need to see your stuff, and you can't do anything in this business. You can't invite them until you start talking to them, and you can't start talking to them until you connect with them. So if anything you do, as I told my clients, just start with something simple. Start with something simple. And if that is all you do, but you do it consistently, and it fits into your schedule, and you could still do it even when chaos erupts around you, go ahead and do this. And I would highly advise you to do this. And I would say why this whole thing is important, a couple of reasons. I'm tying in the Trina Gray national wake-up call from about a week or so ago. Why is this all important to do this? Because I think number one is most people don't own their time. They have no time management whatsoever. The phone dings, it rings, you go and you're running all over the place, and you're trying to, answer all these calls. So, and I'm going to use an example of one of my students. I helped him, and we worked together on time management for his college schedule. He was a 1 3.1 GPA student in jeopardy of suspension. He comes in week 1, week 2, we connect, we talk about time management. He's meeting with me every single week. Happy to say it's a 3.1 by the end of the semester. And he had some really, really tough classes as a full-time student. So this was, I mean, again, he owned his time. He had a lot of time to waste before. And when we set up your time management schedule and help you set that thing up, you're probably going to see a lot of white spots in there, which means that's a lot of time to do a lot of stuff. And if all we're asking you to do right now is talk to 3 new people, I mean, literally, you can knock that out in probably 10, 15 minutes, right? Just inbox them, right? So those are some things right there. And that leads into great conversations. I will say most of my connections recently have been on Instagram. They have not been on Facebook. So it's been pretty cool to see that. But also too, and this is one thing before I let Colleen kind of jump in here, is because we were talking about this today on our WHAM session, which is our weekly accountability meeting when it comes to the 12-week year. But can you imagine what your team can accomplish if everybody was using a system instead of just saying, okay, here's your business tracker, go and do this? I mean, imagine if everybody, or at least a portion of your team, including yourself to lead this thing, was implementing a system that connects your vision and also key tactics. And then you discuss those, right? Instead of having the random phone call. So how's it going? We've all those conversations. Oh, how's it going? Oh yeah, it's going. I mean, yeah, I mean, and there's really nothing to talk about because we don't really have any substance. So when you're using a system like this, and it does require reading a book and taking care of your vision and your goals and things like that. But once you have the table set, you're good to go. But I also would say, can you imagine having weekly phone calls with your coaches about specific action steps, and how are you doing with those? And this kind of gets you out of your comfort zone a little bit as well too. And going back to that Trina Gray call, anytime you're working with personal development, and this is personal development, it's not the warm and fuzzy stuff to make you feel all good. It's really just kind of getting to the point. But when she talked about number one thing you have to do as a coach to make this successful, and if this doesn't get done, it's just not going to happen for you, is you need to work on you. So one of the first things we really would like to do is work on our coaches to help them work. Because a lot of these coaches coming in are new. Maybe they never did any personal development. So work on you. This is an opportunity to work on you, but also to connect you more with the company. And when you talk about, you know, getting people healthy and using Team Beachbody, the products, things like that, knowing that these products, again, as she said, we're not selling lipstick and leg warmers. I think there was a quote. Nothing wrong with lipstick and leg warmers, but what I'm saying is that's not changing people's lives. This is. You guys see that in your challenge groups, and probably you guys experience that on your own as well too. So using a system like that, not only it's working on you, it's connecting you more with the company, but more so connecting you with the team. And I know when I drifted before as a coach and I wasn't really connected with the team, I was trying to do things myself, didn't really work. When you connect more with the team, there's more team unity, team bonding, better things are going to happen. And coaches are going to see that when they hop on board. So again, this isn't a situation to kind of have any earth-shattering new stuff, but all I'm saying is, just if anything, wrap your head around that stuff is going to be busy, and it's going to be busy all the time. It just is. So either, well, that's not going to change. So if that's not going to change, there's only one thing that needs to change and to adapt. It's like the weather. I mean, it's 88 today, but what if tomorrow's 20 degrees? You're going to go out there in shorts? Probably not. You need to adapt to the weather. And if you're consistent with your post and consistent with talking to people right away, you know, and I see it with coaches' pages as well. I don't know if business is open for you. There's a Shakeology post or there's a nutrition post, then 3 weeks go by and I got nothing. So imagine what people on social media, your audience, they don't know what you're doing. They don't, I mean, they drive off to your restaurant. I don't know if the doors are open or not. So when you're working your business that way, it's kind of like having a restaurant, but you're only open on when you feel like you want to be open. In that case, you're not going to get any customers except you. So I hope that helps a little bit. I think it's a matter of just trying to work around the busyness and put a system in place, because my goal, and I know it's a goal for me, my goal ultimately is to have more team unity, more team bonding, more team connection, but also too, not having this business consume you time-wise. Because I've noticed with this as well too, I've had more time. I've had more personal time, which is great. It's been wonderful. So I can do some other things that I'd like to do because I don't feel like, oh God, I got to hit all these numbers. It's like, no, I'm cool. I got my stuff done with the help of people that I've been working with the 12-week year. And it's ever changing. So I don't know, Colleen, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think it would help probably because some people on the call might not be familiar even with the idea of what 12-week year means and why it's called that. So maybe it would help to just step back a second and kind of clarify what that means and then how that fits in with like the vision and the tactics that you talked about. Because for us, like, I don't want to use our own language. Like when we're coaches, we use the language and then our audience is like, I don't know what a challenge pack is. So clarify maybe a little bit more about that. And then I can kind of tell my experience since I'm sort of 1 12-week year, 1 3-month session sort of behind Tony.
Yeah. And 12-week year basically means you're condensing a full year into 12 weeks, right? So basically every week that goes by, it's almost like a month has gone by in your year, so to speak. So 12 weeks is enough time to achieve some goals and build some great habits, but more or less it's trying to achieve some goals. It's enough time to do that, but it's short enough time where there's a sense of urgency. So when all of a sudden you're in week 3 or week 4, it's realize, oh my God, we're about a fourth of the way through this. This is almost like being in April or something. You know what I mean? This is like, and what exactly have I done? And you guys have been through this. I mean, it's all of a sudden it's June. It's like, oh my God, what it was just January. And looking back, it's like, what have I actually done to move forward? So that's where the 12-week year comes into play. It's enough time to be urgent, but it's enough time. It's a short enough time to be urgent, to have that sense of urgency, but enough time to get some stuff done, right? So that's kind of where that comes into play. But yeah, tying in your vision long-term, so therefore you're able to hit that long-term goal, hopefully in a shorter amount of time, because you're not expanding this from January to December. Because January, all of a sudden it's February, March, guess what? We drift. We got plenty of time to hit those goals by December. I got plenty of and next thing you know, it's halfway through the year. And then all of a sudden, like a lot of companies, they try to do this mad rush November and December and try to push things out. Well, here it's kind of like you're always on your game, so to speak, right? And then you can always tweak and change. And they always say, take a week off after 12 weeks. Take a break. That's 4 vacations for you per year. So it's kind of a cool thing. So.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. I think that helps to, kind of explain just, it is that urgency and it's keeping the, breaking down the goals. So it's those year goals in a shorter time because you're doing focused daily actions and you break down your week. I'll just give kind of my input for this book and this process. I'll tell you guys right up, it is hard for me because it is not the touchy-feely, feel-good personal development that I'm all about, that I love. It's not the dive in and get that like meaty emotional stuff. It's not that. And so I resisted it and it was hard to get through it, but it was the most needed thing for me. And if you guys are like, I just don't know, a system, that you need this book. You need something like this. Some of you that might be familiar with Shalene's 30-day push or her push journals. It's very similar. I've been through her Smart Success, which is like an expanded 30-day push thing. But so it's not the 90-day concept is not brand new. We're not saying that. It's something like that. It's all based on very similar concepts and really breaking it down. But if you struggle with that kind of thing, and if you struggle with time management and everything, this is what you need, and you're resisting it because it's hard. It's not easy. And so it's probably the first book that you should go out and buy. And I bought it and listened to it on Audible, and I still go back and do it. I am not doing it perfectly. Believe me, I'm not perfect.
Neither am I.
With all of my stuff. And it's funny because we get on our calls and we go over, you rate yourself. So you identify, this is what I want to be a little bit clear about. It's not just the business activity tracker. You can use that as far as your business goals, but it's really breaking down for my vision and then for my goals. These are my weekly tactics that I want to focus on getting done. And so I have a weekly tactic of inviting a certain number of people. Mine right now is 35 people per week. So it's not 15 a day, Tony.
Okay.
But, but so I break that down. Sometimes it's 5 a day. Sometimes maybe I do more because I know I'm going to have less, the next or whatever. But we rate ourselves then on those specific tactics and then have a score. And that's what we talk about on our meetings. A lot of us are scoring way lower percentage-wise than we'd like, but it still is helping us to get focused on those daily habits. And that's the most important part. So it's really important to get across that setting up a system like this and putting expectations in place for yourself doesn't mean that you have to be perfect or that you will be perfect at them. But in the past, I would have given up a long time ago because I wasn't perfect at it and because it was not what I like to do. And I would have given up on it. And that's why I have enjoyed this and know that it's what's right for me, is because I'm making myself follow through with it and keep going. And then now I can expand beyond some of the business tasks and focus on some of my personal, more family related or home organization related tasks and things like that. So it applies to every area. You get to choose how you implement it and what your goal is, and then what your weekly 4, 5, 3 maybe tactics to get to that goal are going to be. Does anybody? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and it also involves accountability. Because
Right.
we always say with the challenge pack, yep, you get the fitness, you get the nutrition, of course, you get the accountability. And here you have accountability because you're working with coaches who are trying to be and want to be and are on the same page as you. So, and that's where I think it really kind of comes into play. And I think you as coaches, when you bring on new coaches, to have a system set up into play. And I'm going to tell you right now, one time through, it's going to be okay. I know what I need to do. It's like my job at University of Toledo. I mean, it was just like, wow, this is crazy. The first 2 months is so much information. But then things slow down, things calm down, and it's like, okay, now I have an idea. Things are a little slower paced here. So this whole system is definitely not that overwhelming compared to the job I just mentioned. I'm sure Lindsay can vouch for that too. I think we got a new job at the same time. But yeah, so you have accountability in there as well too, and you're working with other coaches in there too. So small group too, very intimate, very nice. Everyone gets along.
And I think it's not like us yelling at each other or saying,
No.
you didn't do your stuff. It's really like owning it. And that's one thing I really like from this book, is accountability isn't someone else saying you didn't do your stuff. It's you taking responsibility for it, which has been cool. And the accountability piece is big for sure. It's great to do as a small group, or even like if you have a success partner and work together. This provides that type of system for you to follow. Okay, so is Brandy on? If she is, I'm not even sure if she was going to be able to hop on. Okay, nope, I don't think she is. I don't think so. That's okay. So you guys have heard from both of us. Do you have questions about any of the specifics, any of the general ideas, or any things that we talked about?
I had a question. I was just wondering, what tracking system do you guys both like to use then with the 12-week year for your vital behaviors? Do you like the business activity tracker or the power of 3, or what do you find works best?
I typically use my own version of a business tracker. I want to say it's in the Team Inspire Action files, but I can always send you one if you want to know. It has those elements to it. Personal development, check it off. Inviting people to the business, post about the business, invites, things like that. So I use something like that, but it's kind of my own version, and with a checklist attached to it as well too. So I kind of have those little tools. They all kind of blend in together. They all kind of mesh, and it took a while to figure that out. Because when you work with the 12-week year, I want to make sure the stuff that I have with me that I'm either checking off or I'm just following. I just want to make sure. It's kind of like when you have a iPhone and you have the computer and everything's an I this and an I that, and you want it to all kind of talk to each other. You all want to make sure it connects, and you just keep it simple. Just keep it simple. And like I said, is the beginning of when I was talking to you guys, even if it's just 2 people that you're talking to each day, you have that somewhere on your tracker to mark that down. So.
For mine, I use Teamsy to track more content type thing and who I'm talking to. And you don't want to see the number of follow-ups that I have on it. If you're familiar with Teamsy, it's a lot that I'm behind on doing as far as, yeah. But and then for paper, for like jotting things down, I've been actually using the newest business activity tracker. And I'm sort of using that strategically for the things that I'm really specifically tracking. I don't care if I'm up down if I did my workout or not. I do it anyway. That's not what I need, to track for myself. But I track the things that I need to track on there. And then sometimes on the back of it, I'll just make a written out list of the names of people that I'm inviting. If I'm coming up with a list from who I just recently saw, comment or like on a post, or just names that I want to make sure I reach out to those people. So I kind of use a handwritten there, but my main way of tracking is in Teamsy also.
Yeah, Teamsy for myself as well too, just to provide my contacts there. And it's probably at least a couple times a week where I'm saying, okay, now who the hell is this? Who else? Okay, it must be someone from Instagram. We had a good connection, and maybe I'm not connected with them on Facebook, so it's great. So then it's like, oh, well, let me check out their stuff, because and I've cleaned house on my Instagram big time. I think Instagram got me up to 1,100. It was starting to go up, and it was 1,100. I just shaved it down to about 99 people or something that I was following. And now I'm organically following the people I want to follow. So anytime I go to my Instagram news feed, even if I spend 30 seconds on it, I don't feel guilty, because these are all people that I have a connection with, that I've found interesting. These are people that I want to connect with, and who potentially could, who knows, do something with the business, or just I find their content very uplifting and adding value. So,
anybody else? Other questions?
And Lori, yeah, feel free to chime in too, because I know Lori Vass has been Vass. She's been using the system as well too, and I know it's opened your eyes a lot as far as a few things as well too. So,
yeah, I think you guys did a really good job of summing it up. And like I told Colleen and Tony, my biggest thing that I've been really focusing on is something that Tony just said, is focusing on calling 5 people a day, and what in those 5 people be just someone I would want to talk to, someone I want to talk to that might be an invite, or it might just be a conversation leading up to that. But it's definitely someone who is like-minded, whether it's fitness or not, that I would enjoy seeing at some point on the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want to use your time wisely. I mean, you don't want to spend time with someone who just, it's a waste of their time, waste of my time, So you want to, you're very specific in who you're looking for, especially if you're looking for someone who may be a teammate, And the funny part is the 3 people that were just recently signed up as coaches were 3 people that weren't necessarily on my radar. I mean, I knew them, and 2 of them were from Instagram. But they weren't on my radar as far as coaching, Now, would I like them on board? Of course, but they weren't on my radar just because there wasn't any connect. All of a sudden, something was said, something was done, and boom, next thing you know, they connected. So that's where the conversations kind of took place.
And I think that's what happens, is when you have those systems in place and when you have those consistent conversations with people. And I think the belief, that's one thing that comes back to the belief in yourself, and the belief that what you're doing is going to make a difference and work over time. Some of those things are attracted to you, I think, through that attitude and through that consistent daily action, whether it's the people that you've been talking with for a long time, or you're just doing what you need to be doing, and somebody else is then attracted to you by a post, by something you said, by a conversation, and it happens. So that could be a whole nother topic, though, the attraction thing. So, but thank you guys so much for being on. Anybody else, any questions quick? If not, we will end, and I'll get this uploaded as soon as I can.
I was just going to make a quick comment because, as Tony said, we both just recently started new jobs. And for me, I went from 12-hour night shifts to a normal Monday through Friday day shift job. And I thought that was going to be easy because I'm on a regular schedule. It's proved to be much more challenging, actually. But having a system has been super helpful. I actually just asked Colleen to hold me accountable this week to getting back into a routine because I've been making excuses for way too long. But one of the things that I just thought I would share that might be helpful is before I go to bed, I already figure out and I write down who I'm going to follow up with, who I'm going to start conversations with, who I'm going to invite. And so that when I actually do sit down to have some time to do it, I just bust it out. I think that half the problem is that you sit there and you're like, okay, who should I invite? Who should I follow up? Who should I talk to? If you already have it written down and you know what you're doing, then the next day it makes life so much easier. And so just some tips is sort of what I do is I'll look and see who commented or liked on my post from the day before, Instagram and Facebook. And then if you're anybody who's using stories, either Instagram stories or Facebook stories, you can see who's looking at your stuff. And so those are also like really good things to look at because I have the same people that are consistently watching my stories. And like clearly like those people must be interested in something or they wouldn't be watching it, right? And so I add those people to my list. And those are my follow-up people. So just a little tidbit I thought might be helpful for some people getting started into a system and a routine.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And Lindsay's system is very, very basic. She's texting it to me. It's a written list in her plan. I can tell it's in her planner, and I don't know all the details of it, but it's right there. It's names that she does, and I can tell when she's talked to or followed up or invited those people. They got a check mark, and she screenshots that and sends it to me. So she's doing it every day by 10 p.m. or she's getting a text from me.
So I used to use Teamsy. I know Tony and Colleen used to using Teamsy. I used to use it. Teamsy is paid. This obviously my planner is not, I don't have to pay for it monthly. But I just realized that trying to work on a computer is not my thing. And so trying to track on a computer is not my thing. So I think everybody has to find a system that works for you. For me, writing it down works for me.
Yeah. And I will say with Teamsy, it's interesting because I use Teamsy about 4 days a week, and I bust it out in probably maybe no more than 15 minutes. I don't necessarily use that to say, okay, where are my follow-ups? I use that to basically store all of my contacts. So it's just telling me based on the numbers, it's telling me, okay, who to connect with. You know, maybe it's 6 prospects, it's 3 coach prospects, so to speak, customers, whatever. So it's almost like those happy birthday messages in the morning. You know, it's always good to wish someone happy birthday. And I think it's really great. It makes people feel good when you get a personal message from someone. I mean, and so that's, you know, I don't expect anything of that. It's just that I do that because I like to do that and forms a connection with us. But it's also too, Teamsy, I'm using that to say, okay, let me just go to this person's page because I haven't been there in a while. I need that. I need that person because I don't scroll the Facebook feed. What I do is if I happen to hop on Facebook and I see something of interest, I'll like it, and I may go to scroll for maybe 3 to 5 seconds. And if nothing interests me, I don't have time. So this allows me, instead of scrolling the feed, it tells me, okay, go to Colleen's page, boom. Let me see if there's anything to like and comment on. Just checking them out. And there's honestly, there's quite a few people. I noticed that there's nothing to like or comment. So I'm not going to like and comment on anything because there's nothing to like and comment. So that's my scroll time, so to speak, but it's very targeted scroll. So I don't use it for follow-ups. I don't use it for, you know, oh, let me make sure I invite so many people and make sure the numbers, no, it's just really to store people and re-engage the connection, so to speak, for Facebook. So, and that's like 10 minutes of my day, 15 minutes. So it's like very specific, very targeted, boom, move on.
All right. Well, thank you all for getting on. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you, Tony, for sharing with us. And I will get this uploaded and the YouTube link out to you guys as soon as I can. Thanks.
All right, see you guys.
See ya.